Okay, good. Everything seems to be working. So, all right. Happy Saturday for those of you who are watching live, although probably nobody's on yet. It takes them a little while to show up. So, what are we going to be talking about today? Today I'm going to be talking about a subject we have talked about before, but actually I was talking with one of my apprentices and I was explaining the concept. I think I was answering a question that he had. And the way that I heard myself describe it, I came to a deeper understanding which I think simplifies something very important, having to do with dying in battle, following your Orlog, and for fulfilling your vows. So in ancient Germanic pre-Christian spiritual understanding, in fact, the whole culture was based largely upon these concepts that when a warrior dies in battle, he or she goes to Valhalla. And those that die of old age or sickness go to the underworld. So obviously there was a lot of desire for people to die in battle. And along with that was that a person's oath was more important than their whole life. And it was tremendously cowardly. It was seen with tremendous dishonor if somebody broke their oath. So you never took an oath without the realization that if you do not fulfill this oath, then you do not deserve to live. And it is better that you die in the attempt to fulfill your vow than it is to not fulfill it. So, this goes in line with, how the Native Americans viewed the Europeans when they showed up to the New World for the first time. Because they also, like every other indigenous culture on the planet that has not been hijacked by some imperial religious type of scenario, which Western Europe was, they believed that what you said, if you said you were going to do something, that spiritually you were bound to that. And that's why at least some tribes, according to at least the information I have, I don't know this firsthand, but they didn't have a word for falsehood. They didn't have a word for lie, because that would be insane. To say something that you didn't believe, number one, but to say you were going to do something knowing that you weren't going to do it, or to say something and then, casually change your mind about it later, was in fact a form of suicide. And so only a crazy person would do that. The idea is that your life force energy is connected to your breath. The word to die, right, that we use if there's a doctor in the room, he expired on, when they give the time and date. The word expire means to breathe out, literally. It means to spirit out. Ex out, spiritus, spirit. Expirare means to spirit out. And so your breath has life. Your life is your breath. If you don't have life, you don't have breath. So if you say with your mouth, I am going to do such and such, your life force is attached to that. And for indigenous peoples, including Native Europeans, the thought of putting your voice and your breath to something was, you had to do it. This, by the way, is why men have difficulty committing. So, in relationships, men are usually slower to say, I love you, slower to say, let's be committed, let's be exclusive. And that's because of the way testosterone makes men think. they realize that if they make a commitment, they have to follow through on it to the end of their life. If they're not, so that's why guys are like, do I really want to commit? This is why marriage is a big deal. Don't get married if you don't mean it. I'm not going to say that you can't get divorced and all that kind of stuff, because obviously I have. So I'm still here, so that can happen. But what I'm saying is that lots of times we take our vows far too lightly, and that's because we've been trained to do that. And I'll tell you where this came from, at least in terms of European society. So again, remember I was saying that for Native Americans it was unthinkable. That's like that whole phrase of white men speak with forked tongue, all that. That idea that it's just unthinkable that you could make a promise and not keep it. I forgot what I was saying, but where that came from is that Europeans had this belief until you started seeing Christianity coming. Now, way back when, and I don't have the exact time frame in my head, so I'm not going to give out dates, but there was a time when the Frankish tribes, who later became the French, by the way, the French are descended from Germanic, polytheist, pagan, heathen, tribal warriors that came down into Gaul after the fall of the Roman Empire, and they overtook it. And then they converted to Christianity, and along with that, they started speaking Latin. And that's why French people have such weird languages where you read it, there's all these letters and consonants, and then when they speak it, it sounds like, well, that is not what I just read. That's because you basically have these German guys trying to speak Latin with a very thick German accent. Les Miserables becomes Les Miserables, right? So these guys used to be pagan heathen warriors until they converted to Christianity, started speaking Latin, and then you had the Frankish kingdoms started to try to overcome the other Germanic warriors. And so, long story short, what would happen is that they would make these desires to have peace meetings. So you have these Christian warriors, these Christian imperial thinking warriors wanting to have these peace meetings with these, unaffiliated tribal, pagan, heathen, unbelievers. And they would say, let's meet and have a peace meeting. Now, in tribal Germanic society, you were not allowed to bring weapons to peace meetings. It was an absolute sign of this idea of breaking your vow. I mean, if you say, okay, we're going to have a peace meeting, what's inherent in that is that we're not going to fight. We're just going to talk. And even if people yell and scream and get upset, nobody's going to die. You can go home, get your stuff, and then come back and meet on the battlefield if you want, but not in the peace meeting. And what these Frankish guys, Christians, would do is that they would show up to these peace meetings knowing that the tribal Germanic warriors would show up without weapons, and then they would put, swords to their neck and say, you're going to become Christian and you're going to become part of us or you're going to die. And that is how, much of Northern Europe was converted to Christianity. And so what ended up happening, that was, 4, 5, 6, 700 AD. So here we have 1,000 years later, a whole population of people who have, after multiple generations, have been taught that it's okay not to follow through on your commitments. If you make a vow, you can go ahead and break it later. The Romans did the same thing. The Romans would do the exact same thing that the European conquerors did in the New World. They would conquer somebody and then they would make peace treaties, and then when it was politically or economically convenient, they would break those peace treaties like that without even thinking about it. So this is where this came from, but this is not our original nature. This is not our original thinking process. When you make a vow, Your entire being is attached to it, whether you realize it or not. Now, you may think that you have the right to break your vows. But I'm going to share with you later on that the idea of dying in battle and dying from old age and illness was not just a cute symbol. It's a truth. And we're going to talk about that. So before we get into that, I want to talk to you about something that I call the soul desire. You've heard me talk about it. If you're not familiar with it, you can go to michaelwilliamdenny.com and you can look for the book, The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. And that will talk about what a soul desire is. And I've been talking about soul desires in the context of how to get the most out of your life, and that is definitely true. But what I'm here to tell you is that your soul desire is not optional. And this is going to be challenging for some people to hear, and it's going to be potentially, challenging for me to teach this, because when I talk like this, most people, especially if they have challenges surrounding going after their soul desire, they think that I'm telling them to, like a perfectionist, they think I'm giving them the Christian, if you don't accept Jesus, you're going to go to hell. It feels like that, and so people get resistant to the idea, and they're like, well, I'm not perfect. What are you trying to throw this perfectionism at me? I don't like this. And I'm here to tell you that I'm sorry that that comes across that way, because I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that you came into this life with a soul desire. Your soul desire is what your soul wants to do in this life. And the soul desire, the way that you know that you're following it, which again, this goes against the whole idea of perfectionism and morality and all that kind of stuff. Because that has, the whole, do this and carry your cross and be a good person. That has a bunch of guilt attached to it, trying to force you into doing stuff you probably don't want to do. But your soul desire is going to be something that when you think about it, it makes you happy. And that's how you know that you've tapped into your soul desire, that when you think about it, even if it seems totally unattainable to you, if you think about it, that makes you happy and you want to go do it. Now, let me be clear again. This is a deep concept. I got a comment on a video today from somebody who wanted to, ask me about soul desires, I guess, and said, so if my soul desire is to get a 3D printer and I don't get it in this lifetime, then I'm going to come back and get it, right? And I responded, no, that's not that. Soul desires are not about monetary things. Having a soul desire, having a 3D printer, as cool as that may be, if that is just something that you want so that you can print a gun or, something like that, that's not a soul desire. A soul desire will always be attached to what you do. Because our lives really are about action. Action is the most important thing. I'm telling you, at almost 55 years of age, that action is it. It's not about how you feel. It's not about how you think. It's not about what you believe. It's all about what you do. And so your soul desire will have a deep desire attached to a way of life, a path of life, and when you think about it, you will become happy. Now that sounds really easy. That sounds like, oh, I just do what makes me happy. Well, how many people do you know actually do what makes them happy? I would say, in my experience, more people are not happy than happy. And So, getting back to the idea of the soul desire is an inborn program that you program. So, let's go back again to the idea of a vow. A vow is if you say you're going to do something, you have now put your life force to it. And therefore, the universe expects you to fulfill that. And from the ancient perspective, regardless of where you're from, whether you're a Native American or a pre-Christian European, the idea was that if you were a person of honor, then your life depended on you following through with your vow. I will do it or die trying was not some outrageous statement. It was, what everybody lived by. And if you didn't want to, die in the pursuit of accomplishing a goal, then you didn't make a vow. So before you were born, your soul made a vow. This is what I haven't taught yet, because I just now really became aware of it when I was talking to somebody. And now it put everything into place, and now I feel even more strongly about a lot of things that I just had suspicions about. And I'll share those with you in a moment. Before you were born, your soul, before it incarnated into this physical body, it was working out a contract with the universe. Because the universe says, hey, soul, there are all kinds of things that we beings in the universe need that only you can give us. And so you and the universe created a path that would give your soul knowledge and power and growth, and would give the same to all of consciousness, whether it be humans, plants, animals, planets, whatever it was. And that's why whenever I give a reading right here, astrology.thunderwizard.com, and I talk about the Dharma Devata, which is the planet that wants to guide you on an unconscious level towards this soul desire of yours, that you following your path, your Orlog, your destiny, your Dharma, following your path is more important than the sun rising in the east. And when you follow your true path, everything in the universe must serve you. It has to. So it's not a question of whether or not you're going to get money or clothes or a car or house or health. If you are following your true path, all of that stuff has to be given to you. So this is different from the idea of The Secret that says if you can sit on your ass on your bed and think about, I want a Mercedes-Benz, and if you think about that hard enough, a Mercedes-Benz will magically drive up into your driveway and park, and somebody will come and give you the keys. It's a totally different idea. This is, it's already built in you. The path is already there. You just simply have to walk it. When you walk the path, the universe gives you everything. If you need a Mercedes to do that, then you will get a Mercedes. Most of us don't. I have a Toyota and it works just great. I love it. So now we tie this into, remember, everything starts with an assumption. And if you accept this assumption that I give to you, then what I tell you next will be able to literally transform your life on every level. Okay? So the assumption is that you're born with a soul desire. The soul desire is the vow that your soul made to the universe before you were incarnated. It's built in. If you follow that vow by following what brings you joy, then what ends up happening is, again, the universe serves you, and you are filled with health and with everything that you need. Following your soul desire will give you fulfillment. It might also give you happiness. But there's a difference between happiness and fulfillment. Sometimes you can be fulfilled and not necessarily be happy in that moment. I am fulfilled in my life, but I'm still racked with grief over the loss of my soulmate. It's very painful. We just had what would have been our anniversary last week. I'm still in a huge amount of pain. So I'm not happy all the time, but I am fulfilled. And this is what you want. You can have control over being fulfilled. You might not have control over how your emotions are at any given moment. Okay? So now let's get back to the ancient Germanic code, which is that those who died in battle went to Valhalla, and those who died of sickness and old age went to the underworld. What's inherent in that is that those who died in battle were dying in the pursuit of following their soul desire. Battle is, it does not mean that dying with a sword to the neck is going to mean that you go to Valhalla. There are plenty of people that ended up in the underworld who died violent deaths. It means that there is a battle. Because again, it's in that phrase. This is why it's mythological, because what's built into it is just all kinds of assumptions that if you accept into your psyche will change the way that you act and react. So dying in battle means that going after your vow, the soul desire, that there very well may be a battle in it for you. That battle may be completely internalized. It may just be a tremendous struggle within yourself. Or it might be just a slight struggle. I don't care. Everybody's different. Or it could mean that there is an actual external resistance. Family members, society, life conditions. You want to be a New York stockbroker, but you're born in, some third world country without any money. Well, that's a big challenge to overcome. But if that's the path that your soul desired before you were born, you commit yourself to it, the universe will align it. I shared about a friend of mine who came from Syria. And if you knew what he went through to get here, this was probably 35 years ago for him to get here. And he got here, and when he got here, he didn't speak a word of English. And now he's a very respected teacher and filmmaker, and very, very successful guy. People really look up to him. And he came here with nothing, and he had to do things like, he was escaping from the government in Syria that was literally trying to kill him, and he was sneaking into Saudi Arabia, and he's got all these stories about how what happened when he was in Saudi Arabia. I won't get into it. And he scratched and kicked, and he finally made his way to America, and he didn't speak a word of English, and didn't know where to go or what to do. I met him in college, and he was getting his master's in college when I met him. And so he's just one example. And he was one of those people that he was going to die. If it meant that he was going to die, he was going to die going after what he wanted. And when you live like that, the universe, as I said, has to serve you. It has to. And so you have to be fearless. So now we get to, well, why is it that they say, well, those that die of old age and illness go to the underworld? Let me talk about illness for a moment. So from the shamanic perspective, and again, this is very general, please don't, I do believe in things like doctors and medication and surgery and all that kind of stuff. So please don't think that I'm not saying that. But from the shamanic perspective, illness is nothing more than an imbalance. And the imbalance is either, chokes off the flow of life force. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that if life force energy is flowing freely through the body, then you will have health. Again, I'm speaking very generally. And when that energy is constricted or imbalanced, that creates illness. So the assumption that I'm laying here for you here is that if you follow your soul desire without any reservation, regardless of how fearful it makes you or how challenging it is, that in and of itself will allow the energy to flow freely in the body, which again, the universe must support you, which also means you must have health. So the assumption is that if you die of illness, then that means that you were not going after your soul desire fearlessly with all of your might and energy, which meant that your energy became either imbalanced or choked off, which created an illness. If you died of that illness, it meant that you died not fulfilling your soul desire, which takes you to the underworld. And what happens in the underworld is you look at your life, you work through your stuff, and then you come back. You are reincarnated. Why? Because there was a soul desire that was not fulfilled. So just like with the Native Americans and the Native Europeans who believed when you make a vow, your soul energy is connected to that, and if you break that vow, you're literally denying your own existence. So that means, on a subtle level, when you, out of some, when you bend to your own internal resistance, and that's why it's called a battle, it means there is going to be resistance. When you bow to your internal resistance, it creates a situation where energy is choked off, you start to get sick, and you die. I'm saying this well aware. I'm 55 years old, well aware. I don't have a psychic vision into my future, so I don't know what's going to happen. That would mean that I would have to be honest with myself if I were, God's forbid, to be one of those people. So I don't say this lightly. It means that everything that I teach you guys, I have to live up to. And everything that I tell you, even if some people, who train with me know what I go through, what I've been through. And they know that when I'm direct with them and harsh with them, and I tell them, here's what you've got to do if you want to survive this, they know that I'm not talking out of my ass, that I actually follow through and I live it. So if I'm here making this video teaching it, that means that I have to live it. It's tantamount to making a vow to the universe. So the bottom line here is that your soul desire is not just a desire, it is a vow. It is a vow that your soul made before you were born. That's why it is in your best interest to become conscious of what your soul desire is and to do it with everything that you have, even if it feels like it's going to kill you. Because if you don't, it very well may. And I say that, again, understanding, I don't say these kinds of things lightly, and I don't say them to scare you or to frighten you. My job is to motivate you. But for me, when I heard myself explain that to one of my students, it just woke me up to, wow, you really do have to live 100% towards what brings you happiness. There is one commandment. There aren't 10 commandments. There's only one. And that one commandment is you must fulfill your soul vow. Or you will have to come back and it will be even more difficult. And the universe didn't do it to you. Archons, beings of light didn't do it to you. God didn't do it to you. Nobody put upon you this heavy burden that you have to carry. You yourself said, this is what I vow I will do if I'm given the privilege of incarnating. And so if we can remember that and act on that, then that will change everything. And, I've been teaching this for, how long have I been, officially teaching this? Maybe a year and a half or something like that on these these YouTube videos. And the people that I've been working with, personally, who take my suggestions. Now there's been a long enough time that I've watched them and they have, experience with it, which is take action regardless of how you feel, regardless of how much money you have, regardless of how easy or inconvenient it is. If you stop worrying about how you feel and how much money you have, if you take action towards what it is that you want fearlessly and go through all of the fear and all of the other, resistance feelings that are going to jump up, the end result is you will be successful and your life will change. And throughout all of that, you might go kind of crazy. You might bump into your own fear and your resistance. And, it takes somebody like me to go, let's just step back and look at this for a second. Let's look at this objectively. Is your life better than it was? Yes. Okay. And I did do this and I did get that. This is the illusion behind it, is that we think, if I just do what makes me happy, then I'm going to be blissfully riding on a cloud of, cotton candy and thankful and aware. I mean, let's give you another example. What's her name? Demi Lovato. I don't know anything about her other than that she's a very successful, popular, and I guess wealthy musician, artist, singer, something. She ended up ODing. She ended up ODing on heroin. And those of us who think that we're poor and think that we're unsuccessful and think that if I had their money and their success, we look at them and we go, man, how can you be so incredibly disrespectful of what you've been given? So ungrateful. Man, if I had your money and I had your success, right? That's what we think. But the same is true about you. You've been given this infinite soul that has infinite power. The majority of you listening to me live in a first world country. And you have everything at your fingertips. And you have all kinds of freedom. You can pretty much, create whatever you want. And be, just for one thing, you can go to this thing called a supermarket, which is the size of a block, that has every possible kind of food that you could imagine at your fingertips. And just with a few dollars in your pocket, you can leave with a bag of food that our ancestors 1,000 years ago would have paid the equivalent of $5,000, because it takes a lot of money to prepare food and to do this and to do that. And you got this, and they got these things called freezers. You can freeze it. You got a refrigerator in your domicile. You can you've got this thing that will cook it for you. You don't even have to make a fire. You mean you didn't have to go get the chicken, cut his head off, and pull the feathers and skin him and gut him? You just went and picked it out of the freezer and then threw it in this thing called a microwave, and in a matter of seconds, what? Even if you look at it like that, I mean, there's so much for us to just be amazingly grateful for. But we don't see ourselves like that. Demi Lovato, I don't know what the hell was going on in her mind, but at the very least, she was not in that moment saying to herself, I have all this money and all this success. I think I'm going to go to the gym and work out and be healthy and enjoy my life. I don't know what was going on in her head, but it wasn't that. So, just to recap here. So your soul desire is not just this cute little thing that's inside of you that makes you, if you want it, you can have success. And if you don't have to do it. I'm sorry to tell you that there is a commandment that came from you, not from God, not from me, not from anybody else, that said, whatever your soul desire is, that is the commandment. That's it. You have to go and achieve that thing which gives you the most joy. That is your commitment to the universe. That is your vow. And you have attached your life force to it. and in fact, the continuation of your life force flowing fully through your body and giving you health is going to be dependent upon you following the vow that your soul made, even if that means that you die doing it. That is the commitment your soul has made to your soul desire. And the faster that you can become conscious of that, the faster you can have health and money and comfort and all the other stuff that you think you're working for. We spend all this time trying to get physically comfortable, have a place to live and have money and have a car, and okay, I can't go live my soul desire because I have to go do this crappy job so I can have the money. Got it all backwards. You go after your soul desire, everything else will come to you that you need to achieve that. All right, I'm going to take a short break here and come back. And if there are any questions, if you're new to the channel, then what I expect from you is to ask a question. I'm not interested in your opinions. I don't want to interact with you in that way. I don't want to scroll through anything other than questions. And the way you ask me a question is you write question. And then you follow it and you put a question mark at the end of it. Make it a question that I can actually read, where you are putting actually thoughts together in a coherent way with a subject, an object, and a verb, and all that kind of stuff. And then if I can, I will answer that question and help you get what it is that you want. All right, so give me a couple of minutes here, and then I'll be back, and if there are any questions, I will answer them. All right, I'm back. So, by the way, keep your eyes peeled because there's something really exciting on its way, which is going to be, not quite sure, probably going to be a book series as well as a video series, and I think a bunch of other things will come out of that as well, called The Naga Conspiracy. And it is going to be a mythological teaching that I'm channeling, which will have within it all of these things we're talking about. that if somebody simply absorbs the teaching of the mythology, they won't have to go through all of this, mental understanding of what a soul desire is and how to do it. It'll just be in there. And I'm really excited about it. And I will keep you guys informed as as it starts to materialize. So let's take a look and see if there are any questions. I think there are some. Where did we go? Where am I? There I am. Okay, so Jedi Black Knight question. Which pointers do you look for in Jyotish to find one's personal Orlog? Well, there are a lot of things that an astrologer can do to find that, find their dharma, their path, their Orlog. And I am the first to say that there are many things I have yet to learn in Jyotish or Vedic astrology. For me, what I have found to be one of the facets through which ones can see into their Orlog is the aruta, the reflection. I also call it the projection. For those that aren't familiar with what, I wish I could change that. It's too bright. Wish I could change that. The aruta is not you. For instance, I'm born a Leo with a debilitated moon. I mean, normally moon is not debilitated in Leo, but I was born on the new moon, which makes my moon debilitated. And so that's me. I'm very sensitive, but all those things. A sensitive Leo, basically. That's me. When I look at myself in the mirror, that's what I see. I see a very sensitive, very vulnerable person. But that's not my projection. My projection is Mars in the third house in Libra. And so that makes me the warrior of balance, the protective warrior, the shamanic warrior, the spiritual warrior. And so what I need to do in order to be successful in this world is to literally dress like that, which is what I'm doing here. That's what all of this stuff is. That's what all of this is. This is me living my costume of the spiritual warrior. And I need to project that in order to get my success. Now, as it turns out, if you have like a planet in your projection house, and if you find out what the nakshatra is, which is now you're narrowing it down to see what the star constellation is that the planet is in, and all of the things connected to that, then that will tell you exactly how you need to be perceived in your career. And sometimes it will tell you, like in my case, it will tell you exactly what you need to do. So that's one way to do it. And so your soul desire will not be something totally disconnected from that. You may, on the other hand, you may not be consciously aware of what your aruta is. And so you may, if somebody were to come to me like 10 years ago and say, what you need to do, Mike, is you need to shave your head and lift weights and walk around with sleeveless shirts and wear all kinds of, beads and stuff like that. And if you do that, people will want to give you money. I would have said, there's no way in hell I'm ever going to do that. That's not who I am. I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not. That's that ego. So you find how your ego is preventing you from following your true path when you look at your aruta and the resistance that comes up in you that says that's not me, or I won't do that, or I'm not going to be fake, or whatever it is. Those are the ways that you're sabotaging your success. So in terms of finding your Orlog, though, this is something that does not need to be found in a chart. If you're trying to find your path, and I'm not saying that your path won't be in the chart. Like I said, I'm not skilled in yet in how to, go straight to that. What is your soul desire? I'm sure it's in there. But for me, I don't see the point of that because it's very simple. All you have to do is be honest with yourself about what it is that you want. Having said that, I know that when you ask people, so what is it that you really want? A lot of people will either say, I don't know, or they will come up with something that is actually not what they want. It's what they think they want. So I have a simple method. Again, simple does not mean easy. I have a simple method to find out your soul desire. And you've probably heard me go through it. If you haven't, then go through it with me. It goes like this. You create a fantasy world. Now, in your fantasy world, there are some rules. The only rules are that you do not need any money, that you will be given the resources necessary to do whatever it is that you want to do over there. So number one is you don't have to work for money or resources. It's going to be provided for you. Number two, you are not allowed to live for anybody else. So you cannot live to be a good person or to heal the world, right? Or be, anything that has to do with living for other people, whether it's to make your parents happy or the world happy or God happy. You are absolutely forbidden to do that. You must be completely selfish. And then the third thing is, you have to only do what it is that brings you just absolute happiness. It's just fun as hell. With those rules in mind, you then say, what is it that I want to do? And there's no rules here after that. You can say, what I want to do is fly in the sky and have 6 wings and 10 heads. You have to let yourself completely do that. Usually, once you've gotten rid of the false things like living for other people or having to make money or being a good person, once you get rid of that and you can get somebody in the headspace where they really are not thinking like that, then it comes right to their mind exactly what they want to do, instantly. So I don't have to look at a chart to figure that out because I already know what makes me happy. Left to myself, like when somebody's talking about their soul desire, when they say, if I didn't have to work this stupid job, or if I didn't have to provide for my family, I would. Whatever they say after that is what their soul desire is, and that's their dharma, that's their path. And then you say, well, what if they do have to provide for a family? Well, the assumption is that if you're following your soul desire, the universe is going to give you all the resources you need to take care of your family. But a lot of times people are going to find out that they're in relationships that they're not supposed to be in. They're not supposed to live and take care of their parents for the rest of their life. They're not supposed to be married to that gold-digging woman or that controlling, insecure man. They're supposed to be doing that thing that everybody's telling them not to do. And that's part of the challenge. So to answer your question, the Aruda is the way that I look for to see what somebody's, maybe it won't tell me what their dharma is, although sometimes it will, but it will tell me exactly what they need to do and how they need to do it. Okay, Ali Tech. Okay, that's not a question. I need the questions, so I'm really glad that you guys have opinions and you want to talk about your opinions. I don't care about that. I only care about your question. Cosmo Joe, question. What if the soul desire is abstract, like evolving into a higher being? Well, that's not a soul desire because then my next question is, how do you do that? Remember what I said earlier, that everything has an action. That the universe is a universe of action. And here I'm in complete, total disagreement with the secret that says the universe is this emotional being, and if you just get to your happy place, then the universe will be this point of vibration, and it will vibrate back to you your happy things. Not saying that emotion doesn't play a part. I'm saying that the universe is a muscle. And in order to use a muscle, you have to take action. So just saying that what you want is to evolve into a higher being doesn't mean anything because there's no specifics in it. If you were to say to me, my sole desire is to live in an ashram and meditate in Kriya Yoga for 5 hours a day and to be a celibate monk and then evolve, then I would say that sounds like a soul desire. But to be honest with you, evolving into a higher being means nothing. I can, just by listening to it and knowing you, Cosmo Joe, I would say that that's not your soul desire, that's your escape. You want to escape your human reality with all of its feelings, which I know frightens not just you, frightens people. Our feelings are very frightening, and we want an escape, and a lot of people escape through their intellect. So evolving into a higher being, does that have within it a desire to escape the confines of being a mortal human? If so, it's not your soul desire, it's an escape. So based on that question, like abstract, there has to be something concrete. Because, it's like saying, like hunger, for instance. Hunger is not abstract. You have to actually grab something and put it in your mouth and eat it or drink it. You have to ingest it. Talking about becoming a chef and a cook, that's an abstract thing. I'm not saying that people don't want to be chefs. I mean, if somebody is sitting there and they're hungry, they're not going to be thinking really intensely about how was it cooked and what herbs were used. They're going to say, I need to eat, and I need to eat right now. And they will take the action to fulfill that need. So, if I had you on the phone, Cosmo Joe, and I don't know if you and I have talked on the phone, I could get you to it very quickly because I would know how to bypass all of your intellectual, your intellect is bullshitting you into thinking that you're thinking something profound when in reality you're escaping. And I'd be able to get to that pretty quickly. So by the way, in case anybody is interested and wants, you can go to career.thunderwizard.com, and usually within an hour, unless you've got some major issues that need to be, kind of picked apart surgically, I can usually within an hour help you find out what it is you want. Getting you to do it, that's a whole other thing. But I can usually figure out what it is your true soul desire is in about an hour. Okay, so Jedi Black Knight question. Can we have multiple soul desires? I don't know. What is your soul desire right now? Again, that question sounds like a great way to sort of divert yourself. I have things that I really like. I know that surfing is the most important thing to me, so I've created a life where I live in walking distance to the beach. Is it the perfect place to surf? No. There are much better surf spots, but they're crowded, and I don't want to mess around with the crowds. Or they're on tiny deserted islands, and it's difficult to live on a tiny deserted island and do what I do for a living. So based on all of that, this right now is my soul desire. Is it where I'm going to end up living for the rest of my life? Maybe not. I think about it all the time. And I look online for places where I would live and where I would surf. One of these days, if and when I find a better place that suits all of my needs, I will pack up and move there. But throughout your life, you may have different soul desires. One of my soul desires when I was younger was I wanted to be a famous Hollywood actor. And I achieved a lot along that way, except I didn't become a famous Hollywood actor. I did do things like I founded a theater company, and I acted my brains out, and I directed. I've made films and directed films, and so I definitely learned that and lived that. And when I achieved, there were some things that we achieved on that stage, and there was some notoriety that I got that definitely I felt fulfillment. But that is no longer my soul desire, and it's moved on to some other things. So your soul desire can change, but you have no idea what it's going to be in the future. So, my answer to your question is that right here and right now, you don't have multiple soul desires. You probably have your soul desire and then some other desires that you think you're supposed to do, or you probably have things that you think would give you status or comfort. A lot of people want money. And so, like, if I ask somebody what is it that they want to do, if the first thing that comes out of their mouth is "I want to win the lottery," I know that they're in their fear. They're not talking in terms of their soul desire, because money is not a soul desire. Being a good person is not a soul desire. A soul desire always is connected to your own selfish needs. And I don't mean that in the way of, selfish in terms of being damaging to other people, because when you follow your true selfish desires, you help others in the process. I'm helping you guys, but I'm completely following my own selfish desires here. Creating this has been, just something that I want to do. And it turns out the more that I stop thinking about what I think I'm supposed to do and more about what I want to do, the more people like what it is that I do. So I'd have to ask more, but when people are juggling more than one soul desire, they're usually in conflict with themselves and they're usually in resistance, because they're at any one given point in their life, there's usually only one soul desire. So he goes on to say, I have Rahu and ascendant, so often I have doubts on whether they're real desires or illusions. So I didn't even get to the second part, so that makes perfect sense. Rahu is going to confuse you. So, no, you only really, in my experience, you only really have one soul path in mind at any given point in your life. All right, John Burnham, question. Do you feel more, back up here. Where'd we go? John Burnham, question. Do you feel more connected to the serpent you saw in your vision over your home now? Do I feel more connected to the... Okay, John is talking about my first book, which is The Thunder Wizard Path, and I talk about how I came to this path I'm on and what I'm teaching and all that. And in my vision, I saw a serpent. And the serpent rose up out of the ground and opened up its mouth and went to swallow me, and I woke up. And what that serpent represented was wisdom, ancient wisdom. So it makes me kind of wonder why you're asking that question. It wasn't over my home, by the way. I was living here in the U.S., and that vision was actually over my ancestral home. So it makes me want to ask you questions. Why are you asking me that? What is it that you're really wanting to ask me? Are you asking me, do I feel more connected to my ancient past, or am I moving in a different direction? I don't know if that's what you're asking, but I can see that could be one of them in there. So do I feel more connected to the serpent? I don't feel any more or less connected. In fact, I'm going to create a mythology about working with serpent energy. So I'm as connected, maybe even more connected than I was then. Maybe that was just showing me where I was going. And wait till you see it. When the Naga conspiracy, when that comes out, you'll see what I'm talking about. Thank you for the question. Oh, Schiffer, right. Question, how do we tap into our soul desire? I already told you how to do that. You have to be able to get to a place where you're in a fantasy land where there are no rules and there are no expectations. And when you ask yourself, what is it that I do that makes me happy? The first thing that pops up is usually your soul desire. So I can usually tell when somebody is really tapping into their soul desire, or if they're either struggling with themselves or lying to themselves. Because lots of times people will lie to themselves. Aha Uskerkaf. Question, are tulpas, homunculus, or servitors the same thing as dwarves? No. A homunculus, by the way, is a small person. It's just a tiny person. No. Dwarves are something altogether different. If you want to know what dwarves are, you're probably new to the channel. You need to go onto my channel and read or watch all the videos where I talk about what dwarves are. And again, it makes me want to say to people that a lot of people do not know how to search within somebody's channel. They know how to search within YouTube, and in fact, YouTube is set up to constantly be distracting you and pulling you into multiple channels. You watch one video, and then there's a bunch of other suggestions that take you to another video. So going and typing dwarves in the search bar on YouTube is not going to take you directly to my channel. And that's what I'm saying. If you want to learn what I teach, you have to go onto my channel only and learn how to search my channel and not other people's channels. And type dwarves and see what comes up. Welcome to the channel. Most of your questions will be answered if you put the time and effort into watching my videos. Athena's son, question. Can Dagaj, which is a rune, where is Dagaj? Dagaj is, where are you, Dagaj? Come on, you have to be in here somewhere. Oh, here it is. This is Dagaj. Can Dagaj indicate enlightenment? Well, I'll answer your second question, which is, and what do you see enlightenment as being? First off, I do not buy into the idea that there is such a thing as a static enlightenment. Enlightenment is only a process. You're always in the process of being enlightened. But, achieving enlightenment, like you've just completely achieved it and there's nothing else to do, doesn't exist. If you think enlightenment means not having to come back and reincarnate, that just means that you've achieved all of your desires on the physical realm, and now you're going to move into another realm, and you will have other things that you will need to accomplish and learn. So there's never an end. To answer your question, my thought of enlightenment is just that. It's a process of becoming enlightened. Your question is, can Dagaj indicate enlightenment? It can if what you consider enlightenment to be is to be in the experience of joy. Because that's what I think Dagaj represents. I know we have Wunjo, which means joy, but in my experience, Wunjo actually means the joy that comes from being connected to yourself and to others. Like, for instance, when you're, Christmas dinner, that feeling, and I know some of you have had it where you've had that Christmas and the Christmas tree is there and the presents are there and the fire is burning and you're sipping cider, and that feeling of contentment and joy when you're surrounded by people that love you, and that's Wunjo. Dagaj means the full explosion of the light of the sun, which is when you are doing something. Like for me, when I'm surfing a 6-foot wave and I'm just bottom turning into the section and the feeling of being fully connected, I'm 100%, all of my senses and 100% of my brain is firing in my body. That for me is Dagaj, just complete, total absorption of joy in the process of something that I'm doing. So that can happen for anybody in all kinds of ways. That to me is Dagaj. So yes, it could mean enlightenment if that's what you mean by enlightenment. Tamuingina. Question, do you feel that the cultivation of chi, life force energy or prana, can help someone in combating fear or gaining energy towards pursuing their soul desire? Absolutely. That is why I teach it. That's why when people are struggling, I teach them to go to qigong.thunderwizard.com. That will empower you, and that feeling of power, which is real, and life force energy also gives you the power to act, that will overcome fear, definitely. May not be the only thing that you need, but sometimes that's enough. It just gives you enough energy and enough confidence to go take the action to accomplish it. So what I would what I would recommend would be based on having talked with them, because everybody's different and everybody's got different challenges, karmic challenges and personal challenges, and that's why again it's called dying in battle, because for some people accomplishing their soul desire means that they're going to have to go through some major deaths. In fact, it may even be in their mind they will actually be afraid of their own physical death. I can tell you that was the case for me on at least a couple occasions where I was this close to being homeless. And it was either, do the easy thing and knuckle under and do what other people wanted me to do and have a place to live and have income, but be absolutely miserable and sick, or to take the risk of, ending up being homeless. There was a point where I thought I was going to have to go on disability. I was in so much physical pain. And I literally was battling, poverty and homelessness and physical illness, going after what it is that I wanted to do. And it was like, if I die doing it, at least I'm doing what I want to do. And of course, what ended up happening was the opposite of my fears. I lost all physical symptoms. And, here I am, living 3 blocks from the beach in probably one of the highest rent neighborhoods in the world. So, I don't know what question I was answering for you. So what I'm saying is it depends on the individual, what I would recommend. But the easiest one is this. Do that exercise to find out what your soul desire is. And regardless of how unreasonable or irrational or impossible it is, take fearless action. Don't take baby steps. Jump off the cliff. Take steps that cannot be reversed. Take action that cannot be reversed towards your soul desire. And then all of the other stuff are just details. Should I do Qigong to build up my strength and my energy? Which of course I say yes. Should I do a mantra? Should I look at my Vedic chart? Should I do a rune reading? Should I, those are things, those are tools that allow you to continue to take fearless action. But the only thing that you need to do is take fearless action, even when you think it'll kill you. That's the only thing you need to do. Everything else is just a different approach or a different tool to accomplish that. Thank you for the question. Miguel M. question. My Vedic reading said that I'm a teacher and want to be a rapper. So Miguel, you keep asking me this same question over and over again. So it's kind of frustrating me because I think I've given you the same answer over and over. Having said that, let me finish reading it and see if I can get to it. My Vedic reading said that I'm a teacher and want to be a rapper to teach people about spirituality to help them. Is this not my soul desire? I love hip-hop. It changed my life. I don't know if it's your soul desire or not, but I've already told you. You asked me this before. I've already told you. If when you think about rapping it makes you happy, that's your soul desire. Go do it. Stop talking about it and go do it. I don't know enough about you to know why you're not doing it. Why are you on the fence? I don't care. I don't need all the information. It doesn't matter. Truth is, it doesn't matter. Here's another phrase that was given to me. I've shared this and it's come to my mind. This was an acting teacher of mine. And what would happen is people would be acting, playing Macbeth or something, and they're supposed to be, in whatever emotional state they're supposed to be because of the intensity of the scene. And the actor will make excuses about why they can't or what they don't understand. And he would say, the world is not interested in excuses, only results. Bottom line is, who cares why you can't do it? You chose to be an actor and you chose to be in this scene. You chose to be playing Lady Macbeth. Why are you giving me excuses? You say you can't get to that emotional place and you're giving me all the excuses? The world doesn't care. Nobody cares. You say you want to be a rapper, and then you'll give me a long list of all the reasons why you can't do it. The universe is not interested in excuses, only results. Now, in this, I can already tell that you're in conflict because you have in your mind, which is a lie, you have in your mind this idea that you have to choose between helping people or being a rapper, which is why you said, I want to be a rapper to teach people about spirituality to help them. And then you ask, is this not my soul desire? So I already know that you're in conflict. I don't know what it is. You want to please your parents, or you want your grandparents, or your church, or somebody, and you forgive me, but because you keep asking me this question over and over again, you don't have the balls to just go out and do it. You're afraid you're going to get excluded. You're afraid you're going to be rejected. And so you stay on the fence and you don't do it. And so I'm losing my ability to feel sympathy for you because I've already told you this 3 times, at least. You want to go be a rapper, go do it. And stop making excuses. And you'll have to deal with whatever comes down the pike. You may be rejected. You may be kicked out of your house like me. You may end up living, well, I didn't, but I was prepared to live on the street for however long. I was prepared to live in a cardboard box if that meant I could surf every day. If you're really committed to being a rapper, then you're going to be prepared to do whatever it takes to do that. And if you're not, then it's hard for me to have compassion for you. So the short answer is, yes, it is your soul desire. Stop complaining and stop fidgeting and stop screwing around and go do it. It's going to be, and if you ask me again the same question, you're going to get an even harsher response from me. Because I don't know, what's it going to take? What is it going to take from me? What can I say to you to get you up off your ass to go do what it is you already know you want to do? What more can I say to you? Okay, moving on. Cosmo Joe, question. By higher being, okay, so is this really a question? Are you gonna drag me kicking and screaming into the morass of your intellect? Question. By higher being, it started when I was a kid and I wanted to be a wizard, and more or less everything has been driven off that, be it yoga, qigong, hermetics, and various systems, because it's exciting. So you're trying to answer my question to you earlier, which was, is your soul desire to evolve? And I'm saying, and you said it was abstract. So now you're trying to tell me through this, you're trying to explain to me what that is. But you obviously haven't found it. Because if you had, you'd know. So wanting to be a wizard, again, are you wanting to be a wizard because when you think about that, it fills you with joy? Or are you wanting to be a wizard because it gives you the power to avoid your fears? Because a lot of people want spiritual power to avoid their feelings. To avoid feeling, and if I'm not mistaken, you're the same guy, and I could be wrong, but there's somebody on here who, again, has an intellect, it might be you, who gets really afraid when they go deep into meditation, they feel like they're dying. And there's somebody else who wants to be immortal through spiritual practices. And all of those things are coming from fear. Now, it may be possible that your soul desire is somewhere in there. But because you are so focused on the fear and trying to avoid your feelings that you don't know what it is you really want to do. So I would even say, again, I might be wrong about who you are, but if you're the same person I'm thinking of that I've interacted with on our Q&As, you're the same guy that when he goes into meditation, he feels like he's going to die because he starts losing himself. And I've been saying, that's good, you're losing your control. What you want is to feel in control, and when you go into a real meditative state, you start to lose that control, and then you really start to gain real power. So your soul desire may be to go there, but in order to do that, you may have to face your greatest fears and die in battle. You may have to die in your meditation. So it may be that. So again, just stop thinking. You're thinking too hard. What is it that gives you joy? Go do it. If being a wizard gives you joy, go do it. And along the way, do not run away from those experiences that pull you into a state where you feel like you're dying spiritually. Or maybe even physically. Maybe it even feels like you're physically dying. You're not, but it may feel that way. Stop avoiding it. So, based on my limited understanding, that's what I see in your question. Rami, question, can I still do something if I have a serious injury on my right arm which corrupted its nerve system and now preventing me? I don't know what your soul desire is. The assumption is that if it is your soul desire, then the universe will provide you with all of the things necessary to accomplish it. So if you're asking me, is it possible for your arm to be healed so that you can do, assuming you're right and that you need that movement of your right arm to accomplish your soul desire? The answer is yes. How you're going to do that, I don't know. I can tell you again from my perspective. Again, I don't know anything about your injury. I don't know if it's permanent or not. I don't know anything about it. And I don't know what your soul desire is, and I don't need to get into it. My soul desire was to surf. And I was seriously out of shape, and I was in so much physical pain. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to pick up this coffee cup like this. It would have hurt so bad. I had chronic back pain. I had chronic neck pain. I had chronic joint pain. I had tendonitis so badly I couldn't even lift things up. My knee was swollen like a basketball, and all the doctors were telling me that I had all these physical injuries and problems, and it was just going to get worse as I got older. So if you were to ask me then, I would have said that I had these injuries and all this stuff, permanent injuries, and I went out surfing. And by the way, I'm not telling anybody to do anything that's going to cause them harm. So please, you're responsible for what you do. I'm just telling you my experience. I went out there with neck pain and back pain and tendonitis, and 49 years old and out of shape, and I hadn't surfed in 10 years, and the waves, and there was a beach break. If you know anything about that, beach breaks are really hard because you got to paddle out through crashing waves. The waves were big, and I was afraid I was going to drown. And sure enough, man, I had to kick in and paddle, and I'm huffing and puffing, and my body finally said, oh, holy crap, if we don't get it together, we're going to drown. And all of a sudden, all of my physical ailments went away. And then, they came back, and they came and went, and I went through a period of off and on. And even sometimes now, when I get into a real state of fear, because there's something coming up that I have to do, or I do what I did just recently, and I signed a year lease on a 2-bedroom house, and a significant commitment, financially. I went through some physical pain for a while, but I went through it, and I'm 100% now again. So is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. I don't know what caused it, but I'm assuming that you're right, and you do know what your soul desire is, and that you're not in conflict. And meaning, when I say in conflict, meaning you think you know what your soul desire is, but in reality what you think you're supposed to do is not connected to your soul desire. It's connected to meeting somebody else's expectations, whether that's your family or the government or God or society or something else. Doku007, question, what's your opinion on the 7 Hermetic principles? I'm not a Hermetic. Don't ask me about other traditions. Don't ask me about what I teach you. Don't ask me about somebody else's teachings. So I don't even know what they are. So I can't answer your question. Marley Meadow, if you want to ask me a question, put question in front of it. Otherwise, I could miss it. The only reason I caught it is because it was right after the one I saw, and I could see that you've put it in the form of a question. Can you drink while you're on your spiritual journey? I don't know. Can you? Why are you asking me that? You obviously drink, and you want to drink, and you have some conflicts about it. So it sounds to me like you're looking for me to justify something that you know is not healthy for you. Why in the world would I do that? You go on to say, I'm very stressed with my 3-year-old daughter, but learning to face things head on. Then why are you drinking? You obviously aren't facing things head on because you have to drink to enable to do it. So one thing you're not going to get from me is I'm not going to buy into anybody's bullshit here. And I'm not going to co-sign your crap. You're stressed with your 3-year-old daughter? Why? Did the universe, did a stork fly into your house and drop a 3-year-old in your lap? No, I'm willing to bet that you probably had sex with somebody, probably without protection, and they got pregnant. And either that or you chose to take somebody else's child. You chose to have that kid. Don't get me wrong, that's why I don't have any. I'm not stupid. Kids are a lot of work. And I've made it very clear I'm not going to have kids. And I never got myself into a position, and I never accidentally got anybody pregnant. So you have a kid, and it's stressing you out so badly that you have to drink. So why is it okay for you to be drinking while taking care of a 3-year-old daughter? Why is that okay for you? So listen, my friend, I'm being direct with you and I'm being harsh, but you know I want to be helpful to you, but I'm not going to co-sign this crap for you. It's going to probably be one of the most difficult things for you to do, to quit drinking and stop feeling sorry for yourself over the fact that you chose to have a kid, and learn to get out of that portion of your ego and take care of your child. You probably need help. So I don't know if you're an alcoholic, and you know, because those kinds of people who don't have problems with alcohol don't ask those kinds of questions. The person who can walk into a bar and drink half a beer and put it down and walk away and not think about that, you know, doesn't ask, is it okay for me to drink while I'm following my spiritual journey? People who ask that question are the people who go in and say, I'm just going to have one beer, and they drink that one beer, and then it kicks off something in them, and then they need to have another one, and then it's okay, and I don't need to pick up my daughter for another couple of hours. And it's okay, I'm not so drunk that I can't take care of her or cook her dinner. Stop me if I'm not describing it, because that's what it sounds like. So I would get my ass to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting so that you can stop drinking and be able to take responsibility for the fact that you have a 3-year-old daughter and stop whining and complaining and being stressed about it. You chose to have a kid. Own up to that choice. You made a vow. When you released your genetic material into the mother of that daughter, you made a vow to take care of the child that was going to be resulting from that. So own that. If you can't do it alone, I understand and I respect that. Be man enough to go get help. Find people that can help you take responsibility for your life so you don't have to drink in order to be stressed out and take care of your kid. Okay? Silvana Ananda, please write question. Otherwise, I'll miss your question. Are wizards born or made? Who cares? Why are you asking me that? Do you want to become a wizard? Go be one. Who cares if they're born or made? That question doesn't help you accomplish what you want. Mine's scot-free. Is Tai Chi a form of wizardry? Of course it is. Miguel M., question. Okay, so it's not a question. He just wants me to follow up with, because I gave him a hard time about why isn't he being a rapper. It's just because sometimes I feel like I want to be that out of ego and to say I'm better than other people. That's why I'm in conflict and don't know if that's true. I have that question a lot of times because I also do self-development and I want to become a better human being to do my soul desire. You don't need to become a better human being to do your soul desire. Your soul desire will make you into a better human being. And I don't give a crap if you do it out of your ego. We have to have egos. I've got a huge one, if you haven't figured that out by now. And I have no problem. I don't even hide that. I'm extremely full of myself. And I have to be, because here I'm about to embark on what I believe to be channeling a new mythology for the 22nd century. I have to be really full of myself if I think I can do that. So rap is all about ego. I'm not into rap myself. I don't like it for that very reason, because it's just people talking about, and I do this, and I got that, and here's my money, and this is my car, and those are my hoes, or whatever it is. And it just sounds like, it's not art to me, it's just ego. But that's me. That's because I grew up in the 70s listening to, hard rock. You want to be a rapper, that's your soul desire, so you have to be an egomaniac to be a soul desire. Who the fuck are you kidding? Come on. You are in conflict. All these reasons why you say you're in conflict are meaningless. You're in conflict. The way to get out of your conflict is to go do your soul desire and have whatever feelings you have. You want to feel like you're an egomaniac? You want to feel embarrassed about your ego? You can have all those feelings and still rap. And that's really important. You guys got to understand this. This is what's called dying in battle. When you go after your soul desire, all of your resistance will come up, and it'll come up in different ways. And one of them is you're going to judge yourself. And you're going to judge yourself. In your case, you say you're too egotistical, which is why you keep talking about wanting to help others, because you think by helping others, you're being a good person. And what you don't understand is that when you go out there pretending to help others, you're actually really wrapped up in your own ego. And what you really want is for people to tell you you're a good boy. And that's your ego. When you think you're not being in your ego, when you think you're serving others, that's when you're being the most egotistical. Because you're only doing it so that people will tell you you're a good boy. It's the only reason you're doing it. That doesn't mean you don't have a desire to help people. It just means that you don't know the difference between your codependent need to have people, and I don't know how you grew up. I don't know if you got, that your parents made you feel stupid and told you that you were selfish, and that's how stuff like this happens. So don't get me wrong. I feel for what got you there. But I'm not buying into the crap you're wanting to feed me, which is, I want to be a good person, but being a rapper is, I'm egotistical, and I don't want to be that. I want to be good, which is bullshit. You want people to love you. So go off and be a self-absorbed, egotistical rapper, and other people will listen to you because it will help them. And stop pretending that you're into self-development and want to help others, unless that really is something you want to do. But the way you're describing it, it isn't. You're doing it to justify to yourself, that you're a good person, and then you want to be a rapper on the side. So drop the bullshit and just go be a rapper. And I can say that with love today. Torn Legarf, do you speak Futhark? I don't know what that means. Do I speak Futhark? Futhark isn't a language. It's an alphabet. So nobody speaks Futhark. You can write English in Futhark, or you can write German, or you can write Old Norse, but you're speaking English or German or Old Norse. So I don't even know what that question is. Nathan Johnson, question. Based on your experience, which of the gods is the best to connect and learn from? My experience? Why do you want my experience? Why not what is best in your experience? This is what this is about, astrology.thunderwizard.com. Because you don't know which planets are working for you. There's a planet that wants to help you with your unconscious soul desire. There's a planet that wants to help you consciously connect and work out spiritual things on a conscious level. And there's a planet that wants to help you with money and food and clothing. Each one of those planets is going to be associated with different deities. Depending on what your ascendant sign is, will tell you which of those deities and connected to those planets are going to want to help you. So if I give you my experience, I'm going to be telling you my astrological chart, which is going to be totally different from yours. So why don't you find that out and then work out from your experience which is the God that is best for you to learn from. Don't take mine. Find yours. All right, no more questions. I am going to take a break and come back and ask more questions and or answer more questions. So be right back. All right, so let me once again go over what I think is the important point here in today's discussion. You're all familiar, most of you anyway, if you're not new to the channel, most of you are already familiar with the idea of what the soul desire is. Up until today, I have been saying, well, it would be easy to get the impression that I have been saying that the soul desire is optional, that you can either choose to follow it and be happy or not do it and be miserable, and it's kind of up to you, which is true. That part is true. I mean, you can choose to take the path of fear or the path of fearlessness. You know, you're the only one that can make that choice. But what I want to make clear to you again is that the idea is that when you make a vow, when you take an oath, you are committing yourself to do it or die in the process. It doesn't change anything just because we live in a society for the past 2,000 years that has denied that reality. Just because you haven't been taught that, or you are taught by society that you can not follow through on your oaths, doesn't change the fact that from the universe's perspective, when you take an oath, you are bound to it through the power of your life. And I suppose there are ways to get out of oaths, like doing, certain rituals or blah, 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 or, whatever. There's probably ways that you can get out of that, or, exchange the energy for that in some way, but you have to acknowledge it. In fact, there was somebody that was working with me, and this person left. They got to that point of resistance, and they had to go through their resistance. And I say to people when they work with me, I say, there's going to come a point where you're going to hate me. And what you can't do if you want to work with me is unilaterally destroy the relationship and walk away. You have to talk to me. That means even if you think that I have violated your trust in some horrible way, and you hate my guts, you are bound by our agreement to talk to me about it in a paid session. And then the two of us together make the decision to end our relationship or not. It's just like a marriage. You have to get a divorce. You have to legally destroy the union. So the same is true with me. But this person chose not to do that. And then came back and wanted to work with me again. And I brought up and I said, well, here's what's happened. You broke your agreement. You walked away from me. Unilaterally, we didn't talk about it. And I said, if you want to get back with me, and then I said, I've been meditating, and here's what I believe the gods want from you. And it involved certain things for this person to do on their own time. It had nothing to do with me. And then, if after doing that, they felt they wanted to come back, then we would discuss it. The person never came back. The person never came back and followed that. So the person has emailed me a few times and I haven't responded. And I haven't responded because my first answer is still the only one that matters, which is you've got to follow through with what I believe the gods have told you need to do in order to rectify the situation, and then we can talk about you coming back. So, life is like that. You can choose to take a vow, and then you can decide not to do it, and then you can tell yourself, but the universe is going to want something from you. It's going to expect some kind of energetic equalization because you put your entire soul into that vow that you made. Now, the point of what I'm trying to talk about here is your soul desire. Your soul made a vow to the universe that it would follow your soul desire. And so the fact that you have problems with it or are afraid of it are immaterial. This is the learning. You want to know why do we keep reincarnating? To learn this. This is the learning. That you learn to be fully, completely honest and, what's the word I want to use? I want to say truthful, but that's not really what I'm, authentic in your choices and your actions. Because if you knew ahead of time, if somebody came to you ahead of time with a script and said, this is what's going to happen if you do this, and this is what's going to happen if you don't do that, and even though if you do it, it's going to be really scary, but when you do it, you're going to end up with this, you would go, okay, well, I'll go ahead and do it anyway. But when you don't know, when you come out of the womb and you develop and become a sentient little human, and you don't remember who you were, then you have to be authentic in the moment, which means that when you face the battle, which will come, when you go after your soul desire, the resistance within you, your fears and your karma will come up. The battle will come. If you're not doing it authentically, from fearlessness, then your soul doesn't learn and doesn't grow. That's why. So I'm here to tell you, so just on the two examples, and if you guys ask questions publicly, I assume that you are willing to have me publicly talk about it. If you don't, then don't, because some people get upset. I can't believe you mentioned me. Well, you just asked a question in front of thousands of people, and so I'm assuming. So, according to the rapper guy, who's jerking himself around with this, I want to be a good person, but I want to rap. But rapping is egotistical, and his soul made the vow to be a rapper before he was born, and his soul said, "I am going to do that if it kills me." Now, what ends up happening is if you operate from the fear, which is, I want to be accepted as a good person, and I want people to love me, so I'm going to not go after being a rapper, but instead be a self-development, self-help person and help others, and then I can tell myself I'm a good person. That's operating out of fear, and that is, from the soul's perspective, that is actually going against your own vow that you made. And this is what I'm saying. Now, I'm not saying this has to do with him, so don't get me wrong. I'm not prognosticating anything about Miguel. I think Miguel will listen to what I say and he'll go and do, he'll deal with his ego and he'll be a rapper. So I think he'll be just fine. But what I am telling you I've seen is that there are people who have died, physically died of horrific illnesses because they weren't willing to sacrifice their life going after what their soul desire was. Instead, they wanted to be a good wife or a good husband or a good Christian or a good something. Or they wanted the money or they wanted the something else. And they were afraid that if they did what it is they truly wanted, they'd either be rejected or poor or both. And then what ends up happening, as I said, is you choke off the energy within you, which creates an imbalance, which eventually will cause an illness. So the easiest thing to avoid illness is to go after what you truly want and get rid of the illusion that you have to be happy all the time and that things have to be easy. The interesting thing is, in my experience, is that when I am successful, like I have money and I have health and I have, all kinds of other things that on, the surface indicate a successful life, those are some of the most stressful periods of my life because I am struggling with the same kinds of things that Miguel is. He's struggling with, should I be a good person and be accepted and loved, or should I be this bad boy, egotistical rapper? That's his fight. Mine, I have other ones. But we all have them. And the point is that if he goes after being a rapper, he is definitely going to feel the wrath of his own ego is going to come up and tell him, you're not a good person, you're a bad person, you're egotistical, and nobody's going to love you, and nobody's going to respect you, you shouldn't be doing it. It'll scream in his ear as he's walking up to the microphone to rap his song. And if he doesn't act on all of that's yelling at him to stop being an egotistical person, and he just focuses on the action of walking up to the microphone and rapping that song that he wrote about last night, it won't matter what he's feeling. The universe is going to go, he's doing what he said he was going to do. Give him health, give him money, give him success. And then you might have to be a Demi Lovato who has the success and has the money and the fame, and you are struggling within yourself about whether or not you're a good person, and then you stick a needle in your neck and OD. That's why it doesn't matter whether you're rich or famous. The only thing that matters is, are you taking the action towards what your soul desires? That's the only thing that matters. I talk about money and where I live and how much it costs, but the reality is I could care less. I happen to want to live right here and surf that beach right there. It happens to cost a certain amount of money to live here. But if where I wanted to live was in a cheap place, I wouldn't care if I was making $1,000 a month, if that's what I needed to pay the bills and go surfing and eat. It's not about the money. The money, the dollar sign, the amount is totally arbitrary. There are rich people who are dying of incurable illnesses because they won't face within themselves the same issue that you're going through, whoever you are. All right, kind of needed to get that out. All right, so let's keep going here. So again, so Miguel M says, question, you can't see it here because there was something about it that YouTube didn't like, so it hit it. But he says, yeah, it's because I have a lot of codependency, low self-esteem, but yeah, what I would like is to make people feel they're all a bunch of pussies and I'm a real man with spirituality remarks. So go do it. I mean, look at me. Look at just in this, session. I've gotten really harsh with people. And, and it may drive people away, but, the honest truth is that that's the most loving thing I know how to do in this moment. To shake you out of your illusion and get you to face the life and death battle that you've chosen to live, whether you want to accept it or not. It's still there whether you deny it or not. You have a life and death battle to go after your soul desire. So I would go do it. What have you got to lose? You already feel that way. You already feel that everybody's a pussy and you're a real man. So go write a song about it. Because there's probably a bunch of other people, guys out there who feel the same way. I may listen to the song and think it's horseshit, but that's, again, because I'm a white guy born in California in the 1970s. I don't get rap. I find it just a complete waste of time, but that's me. But I know there's a lot of people out there that like it because they're constantly playing it here in White Beach Town as they drive past my house. I still hear it. Why the hell are they listening to that crap? Those damn kids. Back in my day, it was, why do those guys have such long hair? Back in my day, we had tight pants and long hair. Nathan Johnson, question. I feel drawn to Freya. Do you know any rituals to connect to her? Laugh out loud, kicking myself for not having a reading yet. I do, but again, if you go here, astrology.thunderwizard.com, if in fact you want a ritual to Freya, I or one of my apprentices can tell you, because Freya is Venus. You find out where Venus is and what sign it's in, it will tell you what ritual to do. Having said that, as I'm telling you this, Freya is telling me to tell you, just go do it. Just go out in nature and just be loving and kind and sweet and treat her like the beautiful woman that she is, and she will come running to you. So stop thinking about it and just go do it. Aha Uskarsov, question, can Qigong connect one to their ancestors? Yes. Torn Legov, question, I confused Futhark for Old Norse and was wondering if you spoke or have studied out of personal interest any of the language. Well, yeah, Torn Legov, have you read any of my books? I'm thinking not, because I go into detail about Proto-Germanic and Old Norse and Old English and Sanskrit. Everybody listening to me, put time and effort into reading the books and watching the videos. These Q&As are great, but they're about 2% of what I'm really giving away, in most cases for free. Put some time and effort into learning this stuff. Torn Legov, question, do you have videos discussing Odin's use of Seether, rune magic? I do talk about that. I don't know if I have it in the way that you want it, but I do talk about that subject, yes. All right, no more questions. No more questions means that I take a break or I go off about something. So I don't feel like going off about something right now, so I'll take a break, and if we have no more questions, we'll call it an evening. Okay, be right back. All right, so let's see here. We may be running out of questions here. I feel like I'm kind of running out of stuff to say. Okay, Miguel M. Question. This doesn't look like a question. Let me see here. I feel there's nobody I can trust in this world, that I will never have real friends. What's your take on trust? Everybody is fake and fuck it. So, let me see if I can answer this. At some point you got to grow up. I'm talking to myself too. At some point you got to grow up. And, part of that is owning what it is that you are and what you do. Now, it's not true that you can't trust anybody. It's just simply not true. I don't know what you grew up and what happened to you as a kid that made you feel that way, but at some point you chose to be a victim. Listen, I grew up with an older brother that just, terrorized me. Alcoholic father, overprotective, suffocating mother, all kinds of other things that I went through. And so I understand where you're coming from, but at some point you got to grow up. If you want to be a victim, you can. And sometimes doing things like going to counseling and going to 12-step groups or whatever it is you need to do might be helpful for you. But even then, at some point, you're going to have to grow up. And you're going to have to pull yourself up by your nutsack, and you're going to have to go, yep, there's some shitty people in this world, but I am going to enjoy my life, and I am going to be somebody that people can trust, and I am going to treat people the way I want to be treated, and it's going to be scary as hell and frightening and all that other stuff. So my take on trust, you're asking me what is my take on trust? Trust is a choice. It is not a feeling. Neither is love. This is very important for you women to understand this. When men say, I love you, they're not always talking about a squishy feeling. More than likely, they may not be having any squishy feelings for you. When they say they love you, what they mean is, I am committed to you, regardless of how I feel. Because for men, we're talking about, not assholes, but for men, when they commit to you in a relationship or in a marriage, they are saying, I am going to die to be there for you and to have your back, regardless of how I feel, even if it kills me. So trust and love are not feelings, they are choices. When you choose to trust, it is a choice, and it means you trust somebody knowing that they may very well betray you. My dad wasn't, had his faults. There were some things he did really well, and there was one time that I was with my first girlfriend, broke my heart, cheated on me with people that I knew. She tried to cheat on me with my older brother. It was just awful. She just broke my she was like, lost my virginity to her, and she just tore me up. And while all this was going on, the rumors were coming back to me about what she was doing. And I was so attached to her, I couldn't, the thought of being without her was tearing me up. And I went to my dad. And I said, Dad, what should I do? People are saying this, 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 and this. And he said to me one of the wisest things that anybody's ever said. He said, you know what, I'm paraphrasing, but he said, you chose to be with her, and so you should just trust her. Because, people are going to say whatever they're going to say, and if you chose to trust her, then that's what you should do. And if you don't think you want to be with her, then don't be with her. But if you're going to be with her, then be with her. He wasn't saying whether or not she was cheating or that she wasn't cheating or that I should, but because I didn't know. It was just rumors at that point. He was saying, make a choice. Choose, and he said that trusting was a choice. It wasn't a feeling. And that was one of the wisest things he's ever said. And that's totally true. When I used to do psychic readings and people would want to know about what's going on, and more often than not, I would do the same things I do here. And I would say, listen, here's what's wrong with this guy. This is who he is. You have to accept him exactly as he is. And then I would say, do you accept him exactly as he is? And they would most likely say, yes, but only if, and I would stop them and I would say, hang on, this is a yes or no question. You either accept them exactly as they are, and if you can't accept them exactly as they are, then leave. Those are your only choices. Your third choice is to be where you are now and be miserable. So what do you want to do? Accept him as he is and be with him, or decide that you deserve something better and break up with him and go find somebody else. Because I'm not going to help you do number 3. It's a waste of my time. You're not paying me enough to help you be in, the third position of being miserable. So that's my question to you about, I hear you feeling sorry for yourself because you can't trust anybody. And again, what the hell does that have to do with rapping? It's obviously connected, because you wouldn't be talking about it if every time you go to rap, you feel like you can't trust anybody. I don't know what the hell that's all about, but who gives a shit? Trust the universe. People have been asking me a lot about Qigong, and I'll tell you one thing about Qigong, which I think is brilliant. One of the things I love about it, you can always trust Qigong. You can always trust life force energy. Like when I was going throughout my life, some of the most horrible, things I've been through, the most frightening things that I've been through with people, and being, whatever chaos I created with people back then that was hurtful. I always knew that I had my Qigong, and that if I went and I did this posture and breathed like this and moved like that I would be filled with this power of the universe, and I would feel the love of the universe, and I could always depend on it. Always. It was always there for me. And that's probably one of the reasons why I have such trust in the universe, and that I say, if you guys want to get anywhere, the first thing you got to do is operate from the assumption that the universe wants to give you everything that you need and that you want. But you have to trust the universe. It's an act. It's not a feeling. But the great thing about Qigong is that I always got that feeling. I always got that feeling no matter what I did, no matter what was going on. If I did my Qigong, I'd be filled with energy, and I could feel the love of the universe. Free Willy question, which of your mentors would you recommend the most? Why would I recommend my mentors to you? What kind of a question is that? See, a lot of people, and I know you don't mean anything by it, but we Westerners have no idea how to interact with a teacher. That question that you just asked is so disrespectful to me. Now, I'm not saying because I'm infuriated by it. I'm not. I could care less. I'm telling you, if you walked in and you talked to a traditional teacher and you say, which one of your teachers would you recommend to me most? They would say, thank you very much, there's the door. Please don't come back. It's incredibly disrespectful. You have this assumption that you can go and train with one of my teachers? That's a huge assumption. It doesn't work like that. So I wouldn't recommend, if you're with me, it means that the universe has brought you to me. If you're meant to be with one of my mentors, then the universe will bring you to one of them. Because what's inherent in your question is that I'm not enough for you. And it doesn't motivate me to teach you. It's incredibly disrespectful. Just to let you know. It doesn't help you either. That thinking. It makes me want to figure out what's going on in that brain of yours that makes you think like that. Maybe it was just an innocent mistake. Then at the very least, I'm doing you some help by don't ever say that to another teacher. It's a very bad idea. A real teacher, maybe a Western teacher, they can get away with it because Western teachers are treated like commodities. Whereas, Eastern teachers, they don't do that. They're not commodities, and if you try and treat them like a commodity, they won't teach you. I can't do that as strictly as I'd like because I'm teaching mostly uneducated Westerners, uneducated in the sense you're not educated in traditional student-teacher relationships. So I have to have some understanding. But there's some rules that I can't break, not because of any other reason other than if I break them, I won't be effective as a teacher. Okay. All right, let's see here. Athena Sen says Venus and Capricorn, assuming that that's a Vedic chart. It may not be. Passing Artura's question, seriously, I know it's kind of silly sounding question, but give me a few words on Vladimir Putin. No. Why? Why do you need me to talk to you about Vladimir Putin or Donald Trump or anybody else? How does that help you? If we were friends, I might go off on it, but you're not my friend. And why do you want to know about Vladimir Putin? I don't understand it. It doesn't serve you. I would love to go off on politics and politicians, on everybody, on all of them. But it doesn't serve you. Because my job is to teach things that will last for eternity, which means that if somebody is able to watch this video 100 years from now, they should be able to get the same measure of truth out of it as you. Vladimir Putin is a blip on the radar. And if I go off on Vladimir Putin and what I think about Vladimir Putin, I run the risk of alienating somebody because I either liked him and they didn't like that, or I didn't like him and they didn't like that. And then I've given their ego and I've given their resistance an excuse not to listen to the truth that I have to give. So that's why I'm not going to answer your question about Vladimir Putin. Well, you can figure that out on your own. If you want to figure out if he's a good role model, you can do that on your own. I'm not going to do that for you. Because again, it's just my opinion. And who gives a shit about that? I'm not here to give out my opinion. I'm here to channel truth. All right, so I don't see any more questions. I don't feel like there's a lot more for me to say, so I'm going to call it a night. Keep your eyes open for the Naga Conspiracy web series. Keep your eyes open for that. All right, that's it for me. I'm going to go eat some food. I will talk to you guys later. Let me just give you one last pithy thing to say, which is get over your feelings. It's going to sound like I'm contradicting myself because you have to have them. So you have to simultaneously have all of your feelings, and yet you have to take actions on your soul desire regardless of what your feelings are. And that will never change. No matter how long even if you learn how to take action on your soul desire, fighting the battle of your inner resistance is never going to stop. It may lessen and it may go up and down, but it will never completely stop. And if you're able to get over if you're able to tolerate, what I mean by get over it, what I really mean is tolerate your feelings, have them, and be able to take the actions that are most frightening to you, even though you don't have the money, or you don't feel right, or nobody loves you, or you can't trust anybody, or whatever your fear-based resistance is. Whatever it is, don't let it stop you from taking the action. When you are able to honestly understand what your soul desire is, remember that your soul desire is a vow that your soul made and that you have a responsibility. You have a commandment to fulfill that vow, and that it is not a choice. So with that in mind, it doesn't matter how you feel. You know, people ask that and you say, well, what about, you know, they tell you what it is you got to do. Okay, if you want to get over that mountain range, then what you're going to have to do is, and they tell you how difficult it is, but if you don't get over that mountain range, your infant daughter won't get the vial, you know, you have, let's say you have in your hand a cure for a snake bite and she's on the other side of the mountain, and if you don't get it to her in 6 hours, she's going to die. And you talk to your guide and your guide says, well, you're going to have to do this, 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 and this, and you might die, and but that's what you have to do. And then they say, so what do you think? How do you feel about doing it? Your response is, well, it doesn't really matter. I don't really have much of a choice, do I? Nope, you don't. And then regardless of how you feel and how difficult or how frightening or dangerous it is, you go and you do it. Because you don't have a choice. And I'm telling you, when it comes to your soul desire, following through on your soul desire is not a choice. If you don't follow through on the vow that your soul has made, you will suffer consequences. Our ancestors said that you won't go to Valhalla. I'm saying it might do other things. But at the very least, you're going to have to come back and you're going to have to do it again, and it might be more difficult next time. So you might as well do it now. And if you're one of those people that you have huge resistance, like you know, and I know some people, I work with some of them, and I went through it, like you really are battling your sanity when you try and do this. It's just really, really, really difficult and frightening and painful. All that means is that there has been multiple past lives that you have not followed through on your soul's vow, which means that every time you come back, you have to make it more difficult in order to get your attention. So if what you really want to do is avoid pain, the easiest way to avoid the pain is to just do it now, because you're going to have to do it at some point. And at some point you will succeed. You know, it's not a question of if you're going to achieve moksha or liberation. It's a question of when. And if you want to make it now, then your only choice is to follow your soul desire fearlessly without any reservations and without any complaints. You can feel however you need to feel, but that can't stop you from the actions that you take. And the actions are the most important thing. If you want to be a person of value, you want to be a person who is loved and respected, people don't care how you feel, they don't care what you think, they only care what you do. And as my acting teacher said so eloquently, the world is not interested in excuses, only results. Your soul is the same. Your soul is not interested in excuses, only actions. All right, with that, I think I'll call it an evening. Yep, I don't see any more questions here. Somebody's asking about what can we do with a blood moon. Just do a ritual. Just go and meditate. At the very least, go meditate. If you don't know a mantra, do this mantra. Don't tell me what I'm writing. I know what I'm writing. Go do this mantra. This is an all-purpose mantra that anybody can do. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. You can go out under the moon, or you can do it in your room, or you can light a candle. Just as long as you do that, that will be something. And it's, blood moons like this, or solar or lunar eclipses are said to be, 10,000 times more powerful. So if you have an intention, you can say, help me find my soul desire. That's probably the most powerful intention and the most meaningful intention you could ever have. Go and chant Om Namah Shivaya and ask the universe to show you what is my true soul desire and help me to take action. All right, that's it for me, my friends. I bid you a fair adieu. Until the next time, keep your eyes out and for all the good stuff that's coming. All right. Probably see you tomorrow.